past decade, the Australian cruise industry has experienced stunning growth. Not only has there been a marked rise in the number of cruise ships sailing our waters, there's also been a surge in the number of Australians enjoying a cruise holiday. The first ever cruise industry report, released by the International Cruise Council Australasia, showed that in 2002 around 116,000 Australians took a cruise. Since then, the growth has continued unabated, with cruise passenger numbers rising year on year. The Cruise Council's latest Australian cruise industry report reveals that in 2011, the cruise industry again reached new heights, achieving record passenger numbers of almost 624,000. This represents a 34% increase on the previous year's numbers. The largest annual increase since the Cruise Council first began compiling cruise passenger statistics, and the highest growth rate recorded by any major cruise market in the world in 2011. Buoyed by this record growth, the cruise industry in Australia now enjoys one of the strongest rates of market penetration in the world, with 2.7% of the nation's population taking a cruise in 2011, second only to the US, where the market penetration rate now stands at 3.2%. The cruise industry report shows that in 2011, the South Pacific retained its position as the most popular cruise destination for Australians, attracting 37% of passengers. Australia was also a favoured destination, drawing 19% of passenger numbers, while nearly 14% chose to cruise to New Zealand. Meanwhile, 7% of passengers opted for a European cruise, while Asia and river cruising each accounted for around 6% of the market. Impressively, all key destinations experienced growth in passenger numbers in 2011, but for some, the story was particularly striking. In response to an increase in trans-Tasman cruises, the number of Australians cruising to New Zealand surged by 80% in 2011 to reach 84,000. In fact, annual passenger numbers to New Zealand are now 8 times what they were just 5 years ago. Meanwhile, passengers cruising to the South Pacific rose by 34% in 2011 to reach 230,000, a doubling of total numbers over the past 5 years. The number of Australians cruising in local waters also increased by 1/3 between 2010 and 2011 to reach 120,000, a 3-fold increase over 5 years. As ocean cruising options in Europe continued to expand, passenger numbers to the continent rose 30% in 2011 to 45,000, more than double their number 5 years ago. Australia's enthusiasm for river cruising also continued, with this niche market increasing its annual passenger numbers by an impressive 22% in 2011. Since 2007, when river cruising was first recognised in the Cruise Council's annual report, the number of Australians taking a river cruise has tripled. For the first time, the cruise industry report also gives an insight into the origin of passengers, with close to 40% of Australian cruise passengers living in New South Wales. Queenslanders made up around 24% of the market and Victorians about 16%. In another new addition, the report also shows the planning process behind a cruise. While 40% of Australians coordinated their holidays 6 to 12 months in advance, the majority of passengers booked less than 6 months before departure. While the range of cruises on offer is continuing to grow, more than half of Australian passengers opted for a cruise of 8 to 17 days, slightly up on the 2010 figures. The percentage of Australians taking short cruises of a week or less remained around 10%, while once again about 15% of passengers opted for a longer cruise of 15 days or more. The Cruise Council report also provides an insight into how many days Australians spent cruising in 2011. This year saw a new high of almost 6.5 million estimated sea days, more than triple the number achieved 5 years ago. It's a positive story all around as Australians' love affair with cruising continues. With Australian passenger numbers and market growth at record levels, the cruise industry has charted a course for continued expansion over the years ahead and remains on track to achieve its target of 1 million Australian cruise passengers by 2020.